Okay, I want to talk about Starbrand issue 12. For those who may not know, this is the infamous issue where John Byrne blows up the entire city of Pittsburgh because that is Jim Shooter's hometown. So I recently got a full run of Starbrand. I've never read it before, and I've never read this issue, so I was looking forward to it. And to give a little more context, Starbrand was kind of Jim Shooter's baby. So when they launched the new universe, I think there were like 7 titles or so. But Starbrand was the one that Shooter worked on. He wrote it. He created the character. And when Shooter was ousted at Marvel, it just so happened that John Byrne took over Starbrand. And within 2 issues, what Byrne did, and here's the panel. It's the final panel of the issue. Byrne decided to nuke Pittsburgh because that's Jim Shooter's hometown. So take that, Jim Shooter. But as I was reading this issue, that's kind of all I was expecting. I was just, expecting that infamous scene, and sort of looking forward to seeing how Byrne did that. But what surprised me about this issue and why I'm doing this video is there was a lot more of what I'll call Byrne bile in this issue than I expected. And I kind of walked away kind of feeling like I needed a shower or something. I think because I just wasn't expecting much more of Byrne's bitterness or whatever. I was just expecting, the famous scene where he blows up Pittsburgh. And the other thing about, I guess the other thing that's a little surprising about this is, Byrne has kind of gotten a reputation in the last 10 or 20 years as being a curmudgeon. Whether you agree or not, whatever is cool. I think it's mostly from his Byrne Robotics blog where he says stuff. So I guess what surprised me about this issue was this was all the way back in 1988, and he was already sort of wearing some of these things on his sleeve even back then when he was at the height of his success. So I guess that's the other thing I was a little surprised at when I ended up reading this issue. So just to give a little more context, so when Byrne took over, he put himself in the book right from the beginning, and this is just an example. Here's Byrne. I think this is supposed to be Mark Gruenwald, or there's a couple other Marvel guys that he put in, which I think is cool. I like it sometimes when creators put themselves in books. But by doing that, he's got some scenes in here that are interesting. So let's look at the first example. So this scene, it doesn't really explain it here, but this is a comic book convention in Pittsburgh, this scene. I think it explains it on like the next page or something. And the scene is a fan, I guess, has come up to him and said, "So do you think you'll ever go back to the X-Men?" And again, keep in mind, Byrne is writing and drawing this. So this is how he decided to depict his own interaction. Next panel, Gruenwald or whoever is holding Byrne back from physically attacking the kid. Whoa, easy. He's just a kid. Byrne says, "One little hit. Just let me kill him a little bit." Which obviously he doesn't mean literally, but he apparently wants to throttle the kid. Again, going back to Byrne Robotics, he's always saying there's these big bad Byrne stories of conventions, interactions, where he's always being misrepresented, he's always being misquoted. He doesn't do interviews because he's misquoted. But here is Byrne drawing and writing. He can control exactly how this scene plays out. And the way it plays out is the kid asks, "Do you think you'll ever go back to the X-Men?" Which maybe would get old after the 900th time somebody's asked you that. But seemed like a pretty easy, straightforward question from a kid. And Byrne's reaction is he wants to throttle the kid. I guess this question is so repulsive to Byrne, yet he's gone back to the X-Men multiple times. So he clearly loves the characters, can't really let them go, which I don't blame him. I mean, he helped define the new X-Men. But he went back to the X-Men in the late 90s, did like 2 years on a book, and even up to modern day. Just the last few years, he's drawn and written about 30 full issues of X-Men stories that unfortunately Marvel didn't publish. But again, a guy who's ready to attack somebody for asking about the X-Men has continually gone back to the X-Men in his career. The only other notable thing, other than the trolling of Shooter by destroying Pittsburgh, is this bullpens bulletins thing. So I guess in the new universe they called it something different, but it's basically the bullpen bulletins page. And sometimes I read these as I'm reading the comic. In this case, it's a John Byrne comic I'm reading, and it just so happens they're interviewing Byrne on this page. So I was like, well, this is cool. It goes right hand in hand with the creator. So I read it. And if you want, you can pause here and read the whole thing. But I just want to highlight a couple things here. First thing, my hobbies are drawing pictures, counting money. That's not douchebaggy at all, is it? This one is interesting, I thought. Biggest influences on my career. He actually mentions Kirby, so I thought that was good of him to admit that Kirby's a huge influence, because for those that don't know, Byrne has kind of made a career out of smearing Kirby every time the issue of Creators' Rights comes up. He says Kirby knew what he was getting into, Kirby knew what he was signing. So every time that topic comes up, Byrne is quick to smear Jack Kirby. It's not just me saying this. He's done this so much that Steve Gerber created a comic called Destroyer Duck, and he put a character in there called Booster Cogburn, which is John Byrne. So Booster Cogburn is John Byrne. He's the company man. So at least Byrne admitted that he didn't leave Jack Kirby out. At least he admitted, yeah, Kirby's an influence. But here's the cute part. Again, the Byrne bile. It's kind of the last example here. But again, as you read all these, and let's look at it first. My pet peeves are Chris Claremont, mutants, editors over 6'6". So he just mentions Claremont by name. No subterfuge at all. Mutants, again, he hates mutants so much that he's gone back to the X-Men over and over. And of course, at least he's a little coy about Jim Shooter, editors over 6'6". So all that, in addition to the expected destroying of Jim Shooter's hometown, was just a little more Byrne bile than I was expecting when I started reading this issue.